or rather, Donald Trump has done more to end racism. I mean, excuse me, Donald Trump has done more for Black people uh, than Obama. And Julius, you were making an excellent point on some of that's perspective. Uh, Inflation and different things. Each year that could be the case with or each 4 years that could be the case with the president. Just in that way. Um, but Eric, you were going to answer that question. You had a perspective on that. What do you think?
I mean, my perspective doesn't far different too far from Julius. I think he's on point with that. A lot of people don't even know what was there. And then I also look at the fact that Barack Obama did one thing. If you could just narrow it down to one thing that he did
Come
that
on,
nobody else can ever take claim to,
come on. I know where this
something
is.
that is the most important thing that he could have done for us, is he became president. Like you can't put no other weight on that, because of that, the fact that he was the first Black president, and he was cool in a fan, cool smoking cool. He
Right,
was cool in a fan, and
right.
he was intelligent. He never got baffled.
Articulate.
He was articulate. He didn't get you couldn't stumble the brother.
He didn't nigga
Everything
out.
you threw at him, he was like Matrix with it, baby. Like, wow. You know what I'm saying? He was immaculate with how he represented us in the highest position in this country. And he showed that, first off, we can be there. Because remember, growing up, they always used to say you could do anything you put your mind to. You
Yeah,
can even be president. And as a kid, we would think, really? And
yeah,
here's the fact. It was always this other hint of that's BS, right?
mhm,
But he proved, now when you say that, it's true.
yeah,
And coming right behind him, now we have Kamala
Yeah,
and vice president. And so now what's next? And so it's like if he didn't lift a pen to change anything for Black America, he did change Black America. He is the epitome of what changing Black America looks like. No Donald Trump can touch that. Secondly,
yes.
Donald Trump did, I'm just going to add one more piece, and that is Donald Trump did something amazing for Blacks in America. He woke us the hell up. If you wasn't woke, you ought to be woke now. And I think that that was also very important, and I thank him because not only did he wake us up, he woke up those allies
mhm.
to
That's
record that, because we need those allies in
mhm,
order to make any change. If we expect change, we're going to need those allies. He woke those allies up to what was really happening in this country. And so, you know what? Kudos to him for getting us the support. And anybody that says Barack didn't do the most important thing for Black Americans that we ever needed, they can get the bow. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Hey, the name of my dog was Fock. Fock. And
okay.
so
Let
just
me
want to
ask
stick
this real
this in
quick.
there
Well,
real
yeah.
quick. Then I'm gonna pass it right to you, Julie. Just real quick.
Uh-huh.
Uh, First of all, I appreciate what you said there. You did, like, you on a game show and somebody gives the answer ahead of time, then that other person gets to steal it. Right? That's how I kind of felt right in there. Like that's the same explanation I give so many people, is
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
Mm,
when we were telling our kids they could be an astronaut or this or that, but if they hadn't seen a Black astronaut, we
yeah,
didn't even
right.
believe it when we were telling them a lot of the times what we were
sure.
what we were telling them they could be. And he showed up there. I also love that you what you said about he woke up woke up our us as well as our allies, among other people. And I think it's interesting. I want to encourage everybody to stay tuned after this show. One of the guests that will be on the show following ours, Freedom Flow, Vicky Abadesco. When we talk about allyship and that kind of thing, she is one of the hugest allies for diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and all those things. So you don't want to miss that. So if you don't need to do anything else after this, or even if you do, leave it on there and listen to Freedom Flow that immediately follows our show. But Julius, you wanted to tap in right then.
Yeah, I want to see if, because you're saying that you concur with Eric B and you agree with that sentiment. I wonder if you guys perspective on that would be different if it was a Ben Carson, right? Or if it was a Kanye West or a Condoleezza Rice, or if that was happening in '08, right? And the reason why the context is so important is right after Bush, right? Not now, not after this awakening,
Mhm.
but if right after Bush, you like, my God, Hurricane Katrina, the recession, this is horrible. We need a breath of fresh air. And then you got somebody, what I'm not gonna say Kanye's shucking and jiving, but I'm gonna say, what if that black person was to be a shucking and
Right.
jiving like black person, and they, oh, don't like. Remember when Bill Cosby was like, black people, y'all need to pick up your pants,
Yep.
and it was that respectability politics, right? Be like that, be like them, because they're not gonna respect you if you're opposite. Now, Brock has always carried himself mannerable, but he's the black man, right? He never neglected that.
Right.
We might have, as a culture, well, he's not black enough, right? We might have disrespected him, but he was true to the game.
Yep.
So, what would you have? And this is a huge hypothetical,
Yep.
right? But what do you think you would have kept the same energy if this was '08 and it was a chucking and jiving type cat, and he just, hey,
Yeah. And that's why I think, in my explanation of who he was as president, I was trying to be very clear on those elements that he had. Right. The fact that he was articulate, the fact that he knew his stuff, the fact that he was able to answer any question. He wasn't able to get baffled. He was really great at relationships with other countries and other governments. He was very mindful of our military. Like, not only was he black, he was an amazing president for everyone, and he didn't come in and just do president for black. He came in and he was a president for everyone, and he was great at it. And so that's what I'm saying. That's the part that holds that sentiment. Because had it been someone that was shucking and jiving, or had been someone that did disgrace the office, like the current president that we have, had we had a black person disgrace the office like that, oh man, look, can you imagine how we would be holding our heads in that space? Like, when we look at all we fought for this, for, like, to me, he was the fulfillment of what Martin was talking about. That was the fulfillment happening to a degree. But um, can you imagine if we got in there and then we just he shuck and jived out, and he did what Trump did? Yeah, we
Which
wouldn't have been
he
happy with
wouldn't have
that.
lasted as long as
He,
Trump. First of all,
oh
he had done that.
no,
He
oh
would have been out
no,
of there the first few months. And the
no.
other thing, what I appreciate about what you did, Julius, and true to the name of this show, right? You just gave a
Mhm.
situation, circumstance. What if it was like this, right? Situation and circumstance. And what I love about that is, or what I think about that is, I think certainly, it's like Eric is saying, you know, I think we got blessed in having somebody that didn't get in there and embarrass us, and happened to just be great without, regardless of the color. It just was this great human being, in terms of his abilities. I do think that if someone would have got in, and that situation that you brought up, if the circumstances were that you know, they were an embarrassing, let's Flavor Flav for president, or Kanye West. I'd rather Kanye West than Flavor Flav, I think. But I think that even then, I think there's something to say about us finally getting in there, and being able to say we could do this, because 20 years from now they might make a gangster movie about Trump, and 20 years from now, I mean, he may have a whole list of brand new fans who appreciate his gangster in that
yeah,
similar way that black, or not just black, but certainly minority gangsters, black, Latino, whatever, they all respect Italians, right? And change their names to it and all of that, even though there was a huge number of Italians who, were just as racist against us, in some cases more, as, some of their white counterparts, or European counterparts. Yet we still, proudly yell this. So, the narratives can always change depending on who's, if his movie is done by the winners, we know what his movie is going to look like, and
mhm.
it's going to be hardcore. Um, And so that brings me
That's
to, well,
okay.
Donald Trump talked to, Ice Cube had a conversation with Donald Trump where he had it with Donald Trump. Mind you, he pitched this conversation that includes, what's it called? The Black Plan?
A
The Black
contract with Black
Contract.
Contract,
America.
A
or just
contract with Black America.
the contract with Black America.
Yep.
And he talked about that with Donald Trump, but he also, far as when I saw him, I don't know which particular show it was on, but he had talked about this thing with with both sides from his admission. Um, both sides meaning, who's in charge democratically, or Democrat versus Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was just talking to, in his words, I'm just talking to who's going to get it done. I don't care who it is,
Yeah.
as long as they're going to get it done. That's not a direct quote, but something to that effect.
Yeah.
And so I want our listeners to, first of all, what is, I don't know enough about it. I've seen him talking about this, and forgive me, listeners, I've seen him talking about this black contract, or this contract for Black Americans. Did I say that right?
Yep.
I've heard him talking about it on plenty of different shows, but I have not actually read or seen what's inside of the contract. And I know, Eric, you have a little bit more information on that. And so can you share with the listeners just what is this contract that Ice Cube is referring to that has people like tripping, like, and feeling like, why did you talk to to Trump? And why did you,
Yeah. So, you ready for me to go?
I certainly am.
All right. So before I go into explaining what the contract is, I want to be clear. I just want to clear up something. Cube made it clear he did not talk to Trump. And so one of the things that people have said is that he sat down and he talked with Trump, and he did not talk to Trump according to his words and what he said. He wrote a contract with Black America earlier this year. He began working on this after George Floyd was murdered. And
I'm sorry, you talked to him after who was murdered?
He began working on this contract after George Floyd was murdered.
Gotcha.
Earlier this year. And during that time, as he began to work on it, the preface is written by Derek Hamilton, the professor and executive director at Kirwan Institute and Ohio State University. During that time of getting with the people that he got with to create this document, he came out and said once it was done, he was going to present it to both parties, Democratic and Republican Party. He spoke about that earlier this year. During that time, we were paying attention to all the different things that was going on, the protests, the marches, and I feel like many just overlooked the fact that he spoke out about that. I actually recall when he spoke out about it at that time. And so then, once he had something established, and if anybody wants to read it, you can go to contractwithblackamerica.us.
Say that one more time for the listeners.
Contractwithblackamerica.us. So now I'll get into. So the contract itself is just that. It's a document that lists some of the things that Cube and the folks he worked with thought were important for Black Americans to receive. He spoke on things like reparations. He spoke on lending reform, judicial reform, constitution amendment, police reform, entertainment reform, monuments, Black responsibilities, economics, education, and so forth. Many people have said that that he did not speak about women in this contract, where he didn't mention women anywhere. He listed everything for Black Americans.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to think
that our Black women are included in that. Right. And it was very and in this the wording, it does include that. And when he spoke, he said, I'm including them. I'm not a Cube representative. I'm not. Cube has not talked to me, and I'm not standing up for him. This is just my opinion on what he did. Many people feel like
Well,
this
some of
was the
that's not just opinion; it's actually factual. This is real news. Some of what
yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah, no,
there's a
yeah,
difference
yeah.
between
What I'm saying
representation.
is real,
Yeah.
right? And so when he finished the contract, he submitted it to the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Now, what happened was the Trump campaign did what they did and made it seem like Cube was working with them. That's what they do. Versus stating what really happened, they looked at his contract and knew it was an opportunity to try to gain some black votes from some black men by utilizing Cube's name. Many blacks have said Cube should have known that, you know, he would be used and he should have been smarter in doing that. First off, he sent it to both like he said he was. If you didn't want to send it to both like he said he was, you should have said something back earlier in the year when he said, I'm going to send it to both. Right? So he said what he's going to do. He did what he did. And then also, uh, the Democratic Party, when they said that they would get back to him after the election, Cube has made it very clear on numerous interviews that um, he did not choose sides. This was a
Mm-hmm.
bipartisan issue.
Mm-hmm.
He expressed that he felt both plans, the Democratic plan and the Republican plan, that was lacking when it came to Black Americans. And he also stated that at the end of the day, one of them will win. And so, not saying he was voting, not he never said I'm voting for Trump to win. He said one of them will win.
Mm-hmm.
And when Big Boy specifically asked him, well, let's say what he say, let's say Trump gave you everything you're asking for. Big Boy asked him this on his show, and I've seen people take this clip out of context. But if you watch the original show, what if Trump took all your points and gave you everything you wanted? Would you support him? Cube still did not say yes in that interview.
Did he say no?
What he said was, watch this.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I that is a difficult question for me to answer. Now watch this, y'all. Watch this, y'all. You know that's a difficult question for me to answer because both plans are lacking.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, one of them will win. And we need to make sure that things change. However, I did write a song called Arrest the President.
That's real.
He said
Watch
it
the
in
interview.
song.
I don't know what to. So for people who say that he was supporting Trump, I don't know what other way he could say that other than had Trump won and he would have clearly kept saying, no, I don't support Trump. Would they ever taken his plan? Would they ever have looked at it or talked to him again if he did say no? And so the part that frustrated me was with Black America, not with Trump and his
Manipulative.
manipulating stuff. Right? That's not what frustrated me.
Not the crack
And
away.
yeah, and also I'm not even frustrated with those who say, you know what, the plan is Ice Cube's plan is lacking because guess what? It is in areas. There's some things that could be better about this plan as well,
And he admitted that.
and he admitted that. What I'm upset about is the fact that Cube has a record from the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
He's been down from day one.
From day freaking one. This ain't a Kanye dude. This ain't a Lil Wayne dude. This ain't a Ben Carson dude. This is a dude from day one. This is the F the police dude. This
Yeah.
is the in with attitudes dude. This is the dude that came out with America KKK. This is the one with bird in the hand. This is the one that
Not showing out for the white cop.
from the beginning, he
Yeah.
has always been about one particular thing. And so to be in a position where we have individuals like Candace Owen and all these other individuals who can speak, and he is sitting here speaking for us, speaking his voice, using his voice for our advancement. No one said you had to follow Cube. No one said you had to worship Cube. No one said Cube was your leader.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to start a conversation, which basically, in my opinion, said, you know what? The streets is watching too.
Hmm.
for him to be able to start that and put it on the table and use his platform to just raise it, and for us to turn around and mix and put him in a position where he is now a sellout or canceling or doing all that because he did something because you didn't think the timing was right. Okay, you know what? There's a lot of people that didn't do things where the timing wasn't right. And that's an opinion. That's all in opinion as well. When was the right time? When is the time where we actually
Actually,
say
the timing was right.
the timing was right?
I'm gonna tell you why.
Go ahead.
The reason the timing was right is because he used, like, the more people that hated Trump over the past 4 years, the more popular he got. To Ice Cube's credit, he said, "I'm the nigga you love to hate," right? Because that was a realization that sometimes that little piece of so-called hate points a microscope on the thing that you needed out. So by people relating him and saying the things that associate him with Donald Trump in this way, well, maybe that's what it took for some people to even look at the contract. And the way that I know that that's true is because I'm one of them. I wasn't disappointed in Cube because I trust Cube. Been a fan since day one. Never stopped being. So when I was hearing the different stuff in the muck, it certainly made me like, well, what they saying about my dude? It's like if they were saying about one of my partners, like what they, and then if I seen little sound bites where it looked like this or looked like that, like, oh boy, they saying that about my dude? I need to check this out because something is fishy. What's going on? Not Cube. He ain't this person they said. And so I say that to say, it's unfortunate that people need that. And I won't say that I'm one of the ones who needed that in order to look at it. But did it put some fire under my butt to look at it sooner? Yeah. And so what my hope is to anyone who's listening is that that not only you've heard this discussion and received all of the of the intent behind it, but that you also take the opportunity to stop listening to what you thought it was, and then just go to what it was.
Contract with blackamerica.us.
One more time.
Contract with blackamerica.us.
And just before somebody get ignorant and don't know it, you do not have to be black to go to that site. Boom.
Now,
it ain't making the right noise.
Were you about to say something, Julius?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I will say this. Now, this is on a different note, and this is the place. Now, mind you, I disagree with. I was upset with black people for the way that they got involved with slandering Cube, and I still am. That worries me a little bit. But I will say this. Now, when it comes to the contract with Black America, this is where I do differ from Cube. I don't feel like, I don't think he did anything wrong. Let me make that clear. I think he spoke his voice. Where I differ from Cube is similar to what Farrakhan said when Tavis Smiley wrote the Covenant with Black America several years ago. We got to stop looking at trying to make this contract. We got to just start building, because at some point, we're like, how do you continue to make a contract or a covenant with someone who continues to break the covenant in the contract? So what I do believe, and here's the thing: Trump's plan, it didn't do nothing, and Biden's plan, it is lacking, and there are many people in government that are trying to work, and hopefully they can push and do some things now. But look, the Democratic Party, they didn't had years and years and years to make some changes, and they haven't either. And until we attack the Constitution, the root, if you can't go back and tighten up what's loosely written that allows racism and white supremacy to just reign and live inside of everything, if you can't attack that and tighten those bolts inside of that, it's not going to change anyway. And I also think it's important that we know that eventually we have to stop trying to make a contract and a covenant with a government or with a people that continually breaks their promise.
What?
Continually does not do what they said they will do. And so that's the only part I feel
like our government doesn't do what it says when it comes to black people.
Hey, I would like to see Q put more of those efforts into with many of our other people with from finances and start building out Atlanta or doing something like that. Like there's some other things that we can do to start
Um,
building. Julius, go ahead, brother. My bad.
it's funny what you said, because what I was thinking before you were speaking was something that you left out, but I love how you brought it back.
Mm,
You brought up Farrakhan.
mm,
Q, when he went to New York to fool with Public Enemy, he associated with the Nation.
mm-hmm.
If he never wrote F the Police, if he never said all of this stuff, if he never did any of this, the Nation of Islam, out of all of the organizations, are the blackest of nationalists that I know in America, at least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So to
Mm-hmm.
associate with them publicly, right? Because Muhammad Ali didn't want to do it publicly until he won the heavyweight. He didn't even want to come out publicly.
Right.
Q said, I'm going to New York, the media capital of the world,
Yeah.
and linking up with the Nation of Islam. And so I love how you brought back Farrakhan. But secondly, I agree with everything you said. I think Black people, we have to do for our own. That's it. I mean, we can do it, right? Like we can literally, I understand the systems that we have in place. But my thing, and me and my boy speak about it a lot, we look at Jay-Z and we say, oh man, he became a billionaire, which is, that's hard, right? That's almost impossible. But he did this from 96 to 2019. That's a generation. It doesn't have to be another 100 years. It doesn't have to be another 200 years. This person that we know, that we love, and we see him in concerts, like he's reachable. He did this from 96 to 2019. If we as a people, we don't have to strive to become billionaires. That's not what I'm saying. Capitalism is not going to help us. But unity, community is going to help. We made Jay-Z a billionaire, but we is community. So community, right? If you look at the Black Panther Party, the free breakfast programs, that's us. They didn't ask for the feds money. In fact, King did. In all respect to Dr. King, I never talk down on Dr. King, but he was talking to Lyndon B, right? He was talking to JFK. Respect it. But Malcolm wasn't trying to do that, right? The Panthers weren't trying to do that. And that's why they were chopped down so quickly. Because when you start doing for your own, they like, no, they can't survive. They need us. That's what the Democratic Party, they thrive on us. It's like a leech. They need us to be dependent on them.
Hear that. Say that again, brother. Say that again on this station. Say that again. Please say that again.
I'll plead the fifth.
Nah, say that again, man. Oh man.
He like it came out so naturally. I don't want to ruin it.
But it's real.
For the listeners, if you want to hear it again, you might have to just re-listen to the whole program.
Man, that's it, bro. That was so
that's
powerful.
Real. And that's what scares me. And I think that's why this election, it kind of shook Biden and Kamala, because they're like, Black people not really voting no more. They're not really voting for the Democrat. But remember when the Q thing came out, everybody was like, Black people, Black men are the weakest links. Wow. I don't know if you heard that. Mm-hmm. But I heard that a lot of times over the past 2-3 months.
Yep.
And
you know what?
Because,
let me tag to something, because a lot of people were actually saying Q was telling people not to vote, and that is not true.
Yeah.
That is not true. He said the exact opposite. He was saying, know the power of your vote. If you're going to be voting for the Democratic Party, ask for something.
That's real.
Make them give you something for your vote. And he clearly said, when I'm not telling you not to vote, I'm saying the exact opposite. Yeah. I'm telling you to vote, but know the power of it, and don't just give your votes away, because that's what we tend to do. We know that the racism is so bad on one side. I hate to use this analogy, but I've said it before, so I'll say it here on this show. I feel like sometimes you feel like we get treated like field Negroes so much that we prefer the house Negro treatment that we get from the Democratic Party. And but that's not okay. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like the house Negro doesn't make us, it just feels comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the Republican Trump, he was stabbing you in the back and stepping on your toe at the same time. The Democratic Party consistently, they stab you in the back while they rub your balls. So
Yeah,
you just feel better while but they still doing it.
still doing it. Yeah.
And
And
I want to say to that I'm in 100%. I mean,
Forget the analogy on
we
your
talking
show.
about it right now, and I want to say this: if you're out there and you're listening and you're wondering, well, okay, so maybe you're not African American or Black, Pan African, etc. And you're wondering, well, okay, you guys want to do it yourself? Do it yourself. We were just trying to help. Well, if you're one of those who are trying to figure out how to help, we're not asking for you to help us in the way that we need to help ourselves is what we're saying, right? We're going to, and that's what's gonna, we're gonna continue to. I hate to say we need to organize, because I believe that has started. I would say that we need to continue in this organizational way. But what I also say is that if you are out there and you are not a cracker, you are a beautiful white person or other, while we work on what we need to, and you still feel like you want to do your part because of what you've received as a result of what has happened to us, then you certainly are encouraged to continue to try to push the government uh, to make it easier for whenever and whatever we're doing. I'm not saying you have to be doing that with us, but you are showing that you're not against us by continuing to fight to make it easier for us to do these things we need to be doing. You are listened to more because of your complexion. You are listened to more, especially if you are a white male. And if you really want to see these things that we're discussing happen, um, then you put some pressure behind the government yourselves. And so I just want to extend that because I don't believe in shutting and I don't think anyone here is suggesting shutting down any other help. This is just me giving you an idea of where that help can be directed while we continue to do what we're doing. And so we're going to come back in just a moment here. We're going to continue this conversation. How are you feeling post the election? When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on after this election. KCBZradio.com. You are listening to Situation and
Chopper
Circumstance.
going off in the hood, man, like Afghanistan or the Gaza Strip somewhere, man. Yeah. We hear so much, we probably know them to it by now. After all, it's the American way, right?
clear.
Home of the brave and free.
It's America.
Free just to murder me.
Land of the handgun.
Land of the beautiful.
Home of the shotgun.
Cursed by the hate
Clear.
we
You're
throw.
dead if you ain't got
Clear.
one.
You can't
Yo,
you
don't.
ain't consistent with your clear today. We don't know if it's clear how to talk shit to Joseph. I mean,
Well, the clear is on the same screen I'm on.
gotcha.
Uh,
Last
no,
time you did it, we could see through it and see your face though. We can still see it clear.
no. If you guys, don't let me forget. But you guys were talking about Democratic Party, right? The first thing, I don't know if you guys remember during the debate, Kamala didn't call Joe Biden sexist, xenophobic. She called him racist, right? Like, that's big. He didn't call him all of the other things that we're calling Trump. She called him racist specifically. And I think that's big to go off of, because when you're talking about reform and you're talking about voting for the Democratic Party, the person who she now teamed up with, that was her complaint, was that he was a racist. So before any of this contract with Black Americans start, he wrote the 94 crime bill. So number one would be to repeal it or exonerate all of those Black men and women who are in prison with the 3 strikes rule and for smoking weed, right? Because both parties have also endorsed smoking weed. They both endorsed legalizing it federally. So before you want to make money off of it, well, free all of those Black men and Black women who are in prison and then with some reparations, right? So don't if you remember, you could bring it in or help me, bring that up.
Actually, just bring us back in after the song go off,
Okay. Yep.
and then just lead yourself into it. Good stuff. And you know what, Eric, you smarter than you look.
Damn, that's cold shit.
Well, wait a minute. You now let me just share something with you about that statement. Here's where people
I
fuck up.
get you. I get you. I'm glad to be smart.
No,
But I
check
hate
me
to
out.
look dumb.
Here's where people fuck up when they hear that. If somebody told me I'm smarter than I look, well, the first thing that happens in somebody's mind is they assume that they think they're dumb and you're smarter than dumb. What if you look extremely smart and you're smarter than you look? Then that's a compliment, right? So it's where that lands, how it lands, and how you take it. And smart guys like us.
That is how you become president. Stick them in the back. Rub, rub, rub.
Right? I like that too that you said that. He stabbed him in the back while rubbing their balls. I was like, first of all, I was like, okay, it's his show. I mean, it's his radio station. If you want to save balls, you
Say
know.
sorry.
I could tell you was feeling it too. Like don't get me on my soapbox type look you had on your face. You had
It's
that
on you.
soapbox.
Here we come.
And we back. And we back, everybody. Situation and Circumstance on KCBZ Radio. We were just talking about Ice Cube, his contract with Black Americans, and what we felt, what we thought, our disappointments with it, but also our satisfactions with it. And what Eric B was saying goes back to what we were talking about earlier about what if somebody says, "Oh, Trump did more for Black people." The first thing in my mind is, how much do you know about the administration, right? How much do we really know? And I bring that up specifically because if you go on that website that you named, that contractblackamerican.us, if you scroll to the bottom, it registers you to vote. If you literally just read it, but everybody, oh, he's telling you to vote for this person, vote for this. It tells you how to register to vote. And then it also has Democratic Party plan, and then it has Republican Party plan. It says this is what Trump wants to do, this is what Biden wants to do. It gives both. So you can say, well, he cooning or he's siding with the devil. Really? Just look at what he's saying and look at what's on paper. And the whole thing siding with the devil, we were talking during the song, T.I. song, is who's the devil? Who's the devil in this situation, right? Do you want a devil who massages you, but still you're in hell? Or you want a devil who is burning up and telling you you're in hell? Because one just don't tell you you're in hell. The other one tells you you are in hell. Deal with it. Republicans and Democrats are the same thing. One just talks a little better. And Joe Biden wrote the 94 crime bill that Bill Clinton signed. That was responsible for mass incarceration. That was responsible for 3 strikes rule. That continued Jim Crow. So much so that his nickname is Jim Crow Joe.
Ooh.
And this is somebody who they're saying, oh, you can't side with Trump. He's the devil. So you want me to side with Jim Crow Joe, right? And Kamala, during the debates about a year ago, she talked out, the one issue that she had with him, not with anyone else, the one issue she had with him, Joe Biden, was that he was racist. So, because we get so caught up in calling Trump racist. But the one issue, and I remember this day specifically because the narrator, the what do they call it? The host, the person who conducts the debates, she wanted to cut her off. She said, we got to get back to it. She said, as the only Black woman on this panel, I deserve to speak on this. This man has had racist policies for the last 40 years. So it's funny, right? It's funny, like who the narrative is for us to push as Black people because we're not too politically educated. We know a little bit, which is cool. It's a start, but I don't like the whole go out and vote. I don't like that because no Republicans don't say go out and vote. Democrats say go out and vote. And what they're saying is go out and vote for me because no other party, Joe Gorgasine and Libertarian Party, she didn't say go out and vote, right? Trump didn't say go out and vote. It's always the Democrats, it's always the celebrities who are saying go out and vote, but they know that means go out and vote democratically. So I love what Cubes was saying was vote, but vote responsibly, just like drinking. Drink, but drink responsibly. I don't have no problem with you turning up. But as long as you can stand on that, as long as you can get home safely, I ain't got no problem with it. As long as you can vote, and I ask you, well, hey, what did they say about this? I don't know, but it's not Trump. I don't know, but they don't want to build a wall. That's when I have a problem with it. So if you vote for whomever, the Libertarian Party, people call it a wasted vote. I don't get with that. Vote for who you think can be better your life and your community.
If I could tag on that, brother, and this is just to be fair to both to all elements of it, because I agree with you. You got to know who you're voting for. You got to know policy. You got to read. If you're listening to this station consistently, you will know that this entire time, KCBZ has been talking about the measures, has been talking about the different propositions that were on the ballot, and teaching and going by line and saying this is what this means, this is what this means, this is what this means, because we believe you should be educated,
right,
and informed when you're casting a vote. But to speak to Biden real quick, I will say yes, he was in cahoots. He was a part of the process of creating that the crime bill. But he's also admitted that he wished he hadn't. And during that time, there was some things that was going on, and he thought that was the right way then, but he does know, and he's admitted that was wrong.
Which
I'm
hoping.
hoping.
Admitted that.
Say that again.
Have the Clintons? And I don't want to say. I was gonna say the Clintons haven't admitted that, but maybe they have. But I haven't heard.
I don't know. I can't
them
speak on
admit.
whether the Clintons have admitted or not. But I know Joe has admitted, like he wished that was wrong. That was wrong. Okay. And then also speaking to Kamala, who also when she was debating him, she spoke. I believe it was on the Breakfast Club. They asked her, "How can you run with the man that you were calling racist?" And she said, "Well, I was in a debate."
Oh Lord, see, that's why I don't trust.
I'm running against him, so I'm going to I'm trying to win at that time.
I got you.
And so looking at because it's politics, we can never get out of the fact that it is politics or step away from that. And so even in that case of her knowing that he had already said, I wish I hadn't done that. If she's going against him, she's gonna pull that card, right? Because but once on the ticket, it's like, all right, now she's recognizing. That's all the political game that I'm not a fan of. But
I got you.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Just being fair to both.
Yeah.
I think there's something to that too, though. I think that it doesn't make me feel like for her, like, so when you hear all of this, right, it's easy to think, well, then Kamala, like, oh, did you sell your soul because you thought he was racist and said all these things or whatever she specifically said, and then now, you're on his side and saying he'd be a great this. And one thing I know about Joe, so I can see how how that would be extremely confusing. It's also confusing to the point of why there aren't the amount of people doing what you said, Julius, and learning more about it and going into it because they see some of these contradictions right in their face.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to believe, what did Trump make popular? Fake news, right? So it's easy to believe that everybody's fake. Everybody's, when you think of politician, it's almost like when people think of car salesman, they think of somebody who's trying to slick you. You think
Yeah.
of
Right.
politician, lawyers, you think of somebody who lies. And one of the things Farrakhan said when Obama was running way back then, he said, they asked me why I never wanted to run for president. He said, I don't want to be a politician because then I have to start telling lies,
That's right.
right? Whereas you're just a speaker or otherwise, you know. So I think that it's important to note that I don't look at it contradictory that Kamala has went with him. I actually see a benefit to her calling him racist, pulling that card, him still choosing her, and now what that's going to mean.
Right.
I believe that Kamala is going to be the most popular vice president we've ever seen in our country, by the things that, not just because her name, but by the efforts that I believe that she is kind of bound to
She's
have.
gonna almost be as popular as Michelle Obama as vice president. Oh wait, she wasn't vice president.
Ah.
Or was she?
Or was she?
So
And so any final thoughts before we end tonight's show?
just one more thought. And just to be fair, man, because I don't like that. I don't choose sides, man. I'm all for what's right and what's wrong. So I remember, as if I was alive, but I remember when Malcolm said, justice is not when you take the knife out of the back. It's not even when it's out the back. It's when you start healing it. Right. So if you stab me and you 9 inches, he said, if you take it out 6, I'm not congratulating you. If you take it out all the way, I'm still not congratulating you. But when you start helping me heal that wound, that's what justice is. Right. So that's not equality, that's equity. Because I got that scar there. I'm bleeding. So equity. And in all fairness to Jim Crow Joe, they released their 4 points this past weekend, and I forget the fourth one, but it was climate change, COVID, and racial equity. Well, not equality. It was racial equity. So,
Right.
with that being said, and again, I forget the fourth one, but I respect that. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say I'm hopeful. I respect that because equity is something that needs to happen,
That's right.
right? So that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. I too very similar to what Julius says, man. One of the things I believe, nothing that we're saying is to say that we don't believe allyship is important, and we not. And I want to make a big distinction between when we're talking about whites and we're talking about government.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't apply. That's like when we're saying that we have to do this without our government does not mean we have to do this without the support of white people.
For sure.
Boom.
What
That's
that
real.
means is that our government, which our government is made up of all kind of races.
Yeah.
It ain't just one race in the Senate, right? There is a dominant thought process, though.
Mhm.
And so without that, like we can't look at that being what's going to actually it hasn't, let me say that.
I
It
got you.
hasn't thus far stepped up the way it was. That the way it should have
I
for
got you.
us. And so, but that is not saying that when we talk about government, this is not a slander on white people as a race. And then also just, man, we got to keep moving. We got to keep the pressure on the neck.
It
Got to
is a
keep the needle
slander
on
if
the neck.
you're a cracker, but not if you white. If
We
you're a
got,
cracker,
you know what? Go.
there is a difference. And
Y'all got
so,
me on here.
and you know,
Save me.
speaking of
Tune in to Generation X, y'all. Tune in to Generation X. Let me shout that out.
What
and
time? What
speaking of
time?
equity and equality, once again, just a friendly reminder: the amazing Vicky Abadesco will be on the Freedom Flow show that it is immediately following this one that you're on right now, and you don't want to miss that. She's not only just so dope, but you know, part of who she is this pusher for equity and equality. Equity and equality, not just in our children, but in this world. And of course, as always, we promise our listeners that we will continue to make beautiful mistakes. We embrace the opportunity afforded by our ancestors to speak, whether right or wrong, weak or strong. We be learning humans, working on liberation and scaffolding a meaningful and fair existence for all. Till next time, my netches. Uhuru.
Clear.
Okay.
and clearly Julius have anxiety.
Hey, you know something I don't know?
Damn clear sign to come on because I